Hey YouTube! In this video I'm going to go over the most important concept of training your dog, and that is what not to do to your dog. Basically, just because you can doesn't mean you should. There are a lot of techniques out there in the dog training world, on TV even, that are very abusive and unethical. Not only are they abusive and unethical, but they ruin your relationship with your dog. Basically, if you're getting a companion animal, you want a relationship of teacher-student or friend rather than master-slave. The most important reason why I don't use intimidation, both of physical or psychological kind, is because I love the reliability of the behaviors I train, as well as the close relationship I have with my dogs. It's the same type of training that is used in modern-day zoos, aquariums, and even the Navy to train very precise behaviors, as well as social group behaviors. If a marine animal feels punished, they're most likely going to want to eat the trainer rather than cooperate. And just because we can doesn't mean we should. With dogs, if you had an enormous dog and you yelled at it, or you put your face in your dog's face and they just bit your face off, you probably wouldn't use bullying with those animals. In this video, I really want to go over the fact that psychological intimidation can be just as traumatic to dogs as physical intimidation, which, for example, physical intimidation is poking your dog, hitting your dog, moving your dog with your hands if they find it punishing, kicking your dog, smushing their face into their own urine, what other things? Jerking on the collar, jerking on the leash, jerking on anything the dog is wearing, picking your dog up by their collar, dragging your dog. Examples of psychological intimidation, which can be just as punishing to dogs and startling as physical intimidation, is startling your dog by yelling, making a noise, a loud noise, staring at your dog to intimidate them, leaning into your dog. If you have a smaller dog than you, obviously it's very bullying if you were to lean into your dog's space, using your eyes to get your dog to offer a behavior or drop some object, putting your face near your dog's face in an intimidating way. Changing the tone of your voice, for example, so if you're like, "Fluffy, don't you even think about it," or "sit," instead of "sit," "Fluffy, leave it." It's exactly the same as a bully in a playground yelling at a kid to drop his money. The kid doesn't want to drop their money, they feel intimidated, and they do it. In my opinion, it's unethical to treat an animal like that when there are other options, especially when the other options are more reliable and create a calmer, less stressed animal. The greatest thing about training without using physical or psychological intimidation is that you can also train yourself to control your emotions in other aspects of your life. So for example, the relationship you have with other human beings, maybe your partner, you can learn to not just blow a fuse when that person does something that you don't like. You can actually use the same concepts of training to make a better, closer relationship with other human beings where you're not irritating the person or getting angry without helping yourself. Here's an example. If you do use leash jerks, and even if you don't want to, sometimes you get annoyed, you jerk the leash, try to not do it. Sometimes, if you've jerked the leash so many times, the instant your dog does something that you don't like, your hand naturally wants to jerk the dog. So you're not even training your dog, you're reacting to your dog's behavior through your emotions. And this is probably the worst way to train your dog, because you're not thinking in terms of consequence, you're using your emotions to train your dog. A lot of people have the misconception that you can't train an animal without using physical or psychological intimidation. This is actually untrue. A lot of people say, well, how am I supposed to correct my dog when the dog does something wrong? But basically, you can still correct your dog when they're doing something wrong. And to do that, all you simply have to do is prevent the behavior from happening and being reinforced, or interrupt the behavior. You can interrupt behavior without being physically or psychologically intimidating to your dog. And to do that, you simply have to recall your dog, make a kissy noise, "Here pup, leave that alone," or "leave it," cues that your dog knows. So instead of doing the thing they don't like, you give them information of what you do want them to do, as well as train an alternate behavior. Yelling at your dog when they do something wrong is not training, that's intimidating and bullying. I have to admit that even though I strive never to be intimidating towards my dogs, sometimes I do get annoyed. And what I have to do is leave the house or put my dogs away and just try to calm down. Everybody gets annoyed, everybody gets angry. Even in human relationships, there's no way, it's a natural behavior for human beings to get irritated and annoyed. So if you do get irritated or annoyed at your dog, don't beat yourself up and say, oh no, I suck at training. Just try harder next time, take a break, breathe. Don't play with your dog. If you're doing a training session, you feel like you're getting irritated, go in the other room, make yourself some food, ignore the dog, and come back when you're feeling better. Really important reasons why you should refrain from using intimidation, such as leaning into your dog's face, yelling, poking, jerking, using tools to intimidate your dog, are: 1, you have a closer relationship with your dog. If you use punishment, you lower your reinforcement value. So for example, if you're out in a field and you want your dog to come back, suddenly the field seems way more reinforcing than you, because sometimes you do horrible things to your dog, so why would the dog want to be with you? But if you never do horrible things to your dog and all the reinforcing things come because of you, you suddenly become the most reinforcing thing in your dog's life. Where if you mix and match training, so you use clicker training but you also use some compulsion training like leaning into your dog's face, you can really ruin your relationship and cause your dog to enjoy the company of other dogs more than you at the dog park, for example. Because I don't want to make this video too long, I've posted the Progressive Reinforcement Training Manifesto below in the description. So please read that. It goes over the reasons of why you shouldn't use intimidation with your dog, what benefits you can have of training your dog without intimidation. See you next time, YouTube.